At 10:47 p.m., a college student stepped outside with everything she would ever own still in her backpack. Her phone was charged. Her keys were in her hand. Her apartment was less than 10 minutes away. By 10:58 p.m., her phone went silent. No one heard her scream. No one saw her run. And no one could explain how a young woman vanished in the middle of a college campus without leaving behind a single trace. This is a story of a walk home that never ended, and a mystery that still hasn't been answered. It was a Tuesday in late October, cold enough for jackets, not cold enough for winter coats. Midterm season. Campus was quiet, but not empty. Lights were still on in dorm windows. Cars passed occasionally along the main road that cut through the university. Emily left the campus library at 10:47 p.m. She had been studying for a sociology exam, texting her roommate intermittently, complaining about how late it had gotten. At 10:42, she sent her last message. Leaving now, be home in a few. That message would later be read hundreds of times by investigators, family members, and strangers online. The timestamp would become a dividing line between before and after. Emily lived off campus in a small apartment complex popular with students about half a mile away. The route was familiar. Down Oak Street, past the old bookstore, across a dimly lit pedestrian path, and then one final block to her building. She never made it. When Emily didn't return by 11:30, her roommate wasn't alarmed. Emily was social. She sometimes stopped to talk to classmates or detoured to a late-night cafe. But by midnight, concern set in. Calls went unanswered. Text messages delivered, but unread. At 12:18 a.m., her roommate walked the route herself. Nothing seemed out of place. No drop phone, no backpack, no signs of a struggle. Campus police were notified shortly after 1 a.m. At first, the situation was treated as a routine welfare check. Adults were allowed to go missing. There was no evidence of foul play. By morning, everything changed. Emily Carter was not considered high risk. She had no history of running away, no substance abuse issues, no volatile relationships. She was close with her parents, called home regularly, and had already accepted an internship the following summer. Friends describe her as cautious but independent. She didn't hitchhike. She didn't party excessively. She shared her location with her roommate when walking at night. On the night she vanished, her phone location updated for the last time at 10:53 p.m. near the entrance of pedestrian path. Then it went silent. By noon the next day, Emily's disappearance was no longer quiet. Posters went up across campus. Volunteers gathered. Local media picked up the story. Police retraced her likely path multiple times. Dogs were brought in. The pedestrian trail was searched inch by inch. Nothing. No torn clothing. No personal belongings. No eyewitnesses willing or able to say they had seen anything unusual. The lack of evidence became the most disturbing detail. People do not simply vanish. The pedestrian path became the center of attention. It was a narrow stretch of pavement running behind a row of closed shops and an unused warehouse. Students had complained for years about poor lighting, but nothing had ever happened there. Until now, investigators believe that if something occurred, it likely happened within that quarter-mile stretch. But there was a problem. There were no cameras covering the path. The nearest surveillance footage, captured from a convenience store 2 blocks away, showed Emily walking past at 10:50 p.m. She appeared relaxed, unhurried, alone. That was the last confirmed image of her ever recorded. In the days following Emily's disappearance, speculation filled the void left by answers. Some believed she had been abducted by a stranger, a crime of opportunity in a poorly lit area. Others suggested she had met someone willingly. A few insisted she must have left town on her own. But every theory ran into the same problem. There was no evidence to support any of them. Her bank accounts were untouched. Her phone never pinged again. Her social media remained inactive. It was as if she had been erased. Emily's phone became a focal point. Records showed it powered off at 10:58 p.m. Whether it died, was turned off manually, or was disabled by someone else remains unknown. What troubled investigators most was this. Emily always carried a portable charger. It was missing. 5 days into the investigation, a tip came in. A local resident claimed to have seen a young woman matching Emily's description arguing with someone near the path that night, but the account was vague. The witness couldn't recall the person's gender, couldn't describe their clothing, couldn't say what the argument was about. When investigators followed up, inconsistencies emerged. The sighting could not be verified. And just like that, the lead dissolved. Classes resumed. Life painfully moved on. Students avoided the path at night. Campus lighting was upgraded. Safety escorts were expanded. Emily's parents stayed in town for weeks, attending every search effort. Speaking to anyone who would listen, her mother kept repeating the same question. How does someone disappear in a place full of people? No one had an answer. 3 months later, a hiker discovered a women's scarf near a wooded area 5 miles from campus. The scarf looked similar to one Emily owned. For a brief moment, hope surged, but forensic testing could not confirm it belonged to her. No DNA, no fibers, no trace evidence. Another dead end. As months turned into a year, leads slowed to a trickle. The task force was reduced. Media attention faded. Emily's disappearance was officially classified as a cold case, open but inactive. Her apartment was cleared out. Her roommate graduated. Her parents returned home, but they never stopped searching. Years later, Emily's case found new life online. True crime forums dissected every detail. Maps were redrawn. Timelines were reconstructed. Some users noticed something troubling. Another student had gone missing in a nearby city 2 years earlier under eerily similar circumstances. Late night, short walk, no evidence. Police denied any connection, but the questions remained. 7 years after Emily vanished, the case was quietly reassigned to a new investigator. Advancements in digital forensics offered fresh hope. Old phone records were reviewed. Tips were reanalyzed. Witness statements were re-examined. Still, nothing definitive emerged. The same silence persisted. What happened to Emily Carter? Was it a crime of chance? Or something planned? Did someone she trusted meet her that night? Or did a stranger see an opportunity and take it? The truth is, no one knows. And that uncertainty is what makes the case so disturbing. Because if someone can disappear on a well-lit college campus, steps away from home, it could happen anywhere. Emily Carter never came home. No arrests were made. No remains were found. No explanations ever confirmed. Her case remains open. Waiting somewhere between the library and her front door, a normal night ended and a mystery began. And until someone speaks, or a forgotten detail finally comes to light, the question remains. What really happened on that walk home? What made Emily Carter's disappearance especially unsettling was not just what was missing, but what wasn't. There was no ransom demand, no suspicious financial activity, no anonymous confession. Weeks passed, then months, and still, nothing surfaced that could explain how a young woman vanished during an ordinary walk home. Investigators quietly began reviewing people Emily had crossed paths with that day. Her professors were interviewed. Classmates were questioned. Employees at the library were asked if they remembered anything unusual. No one did. Emily had attended class, studied, sent a few messages, and left just like she always had. Nothing stood out. That absence of irregularity became another problem. One of the most frustrating aspects of the case was how tight the timeline was. From the moment Emily left the library to the last location ping on her phone, only 6 minutes had passed. 6 minutes. That meant whatever happened to her happened quickly, or involved someone she did not perceive as a threat. There was no prolonged struggle reported, no screams heard, no disturbance noticed by nearby residents. If someone intercepted her, they did so efficiently, and if Emily left willingly, she did so without telling anyone. Both possibilities were equally disturbing. Over time, a few individuals were quietly examined. A maintenance worker who often passed through the pedestrian path late at night, a former student who lived nearby and had prior run-ins with campus police, a rideshare driver who logged a pickup request near Oak Street, but later canceled it. None of these leads held. Alibis checked out. Phone records didn't align. Surveillance footage ruled them out. One by one, each possibility collapsed under scrutiny. The list of suspects shrank, until there were none. At one point, investigators were forced to consider the possibility no one wanted to acknowledge. What if Emily left on her own? But that theory quickly unraveled. Emily left behind her laptop, her passport, her savings, her internship paperwork. She had plans, commitments, a future she talked about openly. People who disappear voluntarily leave signs behind. Emily left nothing. Emily's parents refused to accept silence as an answer. They hired a private investigator. They revisited the campus repeatedly. They walked the path themselves, again and again. Her father kept notes, dates, names, times. Her mother kept Emily's room exactly the same. Friends noticed something that felt cruelly symbolic. Emily's bed remained neatly made, as if she might come back at any moment. Over the years, several theories gained traction, none confirmed, all troubling. One suggested Emily was targeted by someone familiar with the area who knew exactly where cameras ended. Another proposed she encountered someone she trusted, someone who offered help, a ride, or reassurance. A darker theory speculated that Emily may have stumbled onto something she wasn't meant to see. But without evidence, theories remained just that, speculation filling the space where answers should have been. Students who continued using the pedestrian path after Emily's disappearance described it differently than before. What once felt routine now felt exposed. The silence was louder, the shadows seemed deeper. Every passing footstep raised questions. The university eventually installed lighting and emergency call boxes, but for many, the changes came too late. The path would always be associated with one thing, a walk that ended without explanation. For years after Emily vanished, another item surfaced. A scarf, different from the first, was found during road construction nearly 10 miles away. This time, investigators felt more confident. But again, testing produced no conclusive results. No DNA, no fibers, no trace linking it to Emily. Hope rose and collapsed once more. Emily Carter's disappearance is not unique. Across the country, similar cases exist, short distances, familiar routes, no witnesses, no evidence. But Emily's case continues to disturb people because of its simplicity. She didn't travel far. She didn't take risks. She didn't disappear into isolation. She vanished in a place designed to be safe. And that is what lingers. Today, Emily would be in her 30s. She would have graduated, built a career, lived a life that never happened. Instead, her name exists in databases, forums, and unsolved case files. A reminder that not every story gets closure. Somewhere along a half-mile stretch of pavement, something happened that no camera recorded and no witness understood. A moment passed unnoticed. A decision was made or forced, and a young woman disappeared into the unknown. Until someone speaks, until evidence emerges, until forgotten detail finally breaks the silence. Emily Carter's walk home remains unfinished, and the mystery of what happened that night remains unsolved.